In 2025, Canada is facing one of the biggest immigration shakeups in its history, and the numbers are alarming. Experts warn that hundreds of thousands of immigrants could lose their legal status, while families who have lived here for years may be told to pack their bags and leave. Rules are changing faster than ever, work permits expiring sooner, language requirements going up, sponsorship getting tougher, and background checks digging deeper. Imagine building a life, buying a home, raising children, and then suddenly realizing a single rule could take it all away. These changes aren't just policies, they are life-altering decisions, and in this video we break down the 10 rules that could decide who stays and who must leave. Number 10. Criminal records and security screening. For anyone living in or moving to Canada, criminal records and security screening have always played a role in determining eligibility. In 2025, however, these checks are becoming much stricter, with a lower tolerance for even minor offenses. This means that individuals who may have faced small legal issues in the past, such as traffic-related convictions or misdemeanors, could now see their applications for work permits, permanent residency, or citizenship rejected. Immigration authorities are also expanding the scope of security checks, using advanced databases and international cooperation to screen applicants more thoroughly. The message is clear: Canada is prioritizing national security and public safety above all else, even if it means more people being denied entry or losing their status. The stricter rules are not only about criminality but also about perceived security risks. For example, associations with certain organizations abroad or discrepancies in an applicant's travel history could now trigger red flags. Families may also feel the impact, as one member's record could jeopardize the entire household's application. Critics argue that while protecting the country is essential, these measures risk punishing individuals who have already rehabilitated or who face unfair accusations. A young worker with a past mistake may find their future in Canada permanently blocked, despite years of honest effort and community contribution. The fear of rejection or deportation now hangs heavier over those with any blemish on their record. For immigrants in 2025, the key is preparation and honesty. Applicants should gather all relevant legal documents, resolve outstanding issues, and seek legal advice before submitting applications. Being transparent during the immigration process is critical, as hiding information can lead to bans or removal. Those with past offenses may benefit from applying for record suspensions or seeking help from professional advisors who specialize in immigration law. The reality is that Canada's 2025 system views background checks as more than a formality. They are a decisive gatekeeper. For many, this rule could mean the difference between achieving the dream of building a life in Canada or facing the devastating news that their future lies elsewhere. Number 9. Refugee and asylum policy adjustments. In 2025, Canada is introducing stricter refugee and asylum policies that could deeply affect thousands of vulnerable individuals seeking safety. Traditionally, Canada has been recognized as a leader in humanitarian protection, offering refuge to those fleeing war, persecution, or violence. However, new rules emphasize tighter eligibility criteria and more rigorous screening processes. Applicants may now be required to provide stronger documentation or evidence of their claims, something that is often difficult for people escaping dangerous situations. Imagine a family fleeing conflict with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Under the 2025 policies, their lack of documents could mean rejection at the border. For many, this feels like an added obstacle at the very moment when they need help the most. The government argues that these changes are designed to prevent fraudulent claims and ensure resources are focused on genuine cases. Officials also highlight the need to manage growing demand, as the global number of displaced people continues to rise. Yet critics warn that stricter asylum rules could push desperate families into dangerous alternatives, including relying on smugglers or living undocumented. Refugee advocacy groups fear that the policies risk undermining Canada's international reputation as a safe haven. A reduction in approvals also means that communities that have historically welcomed refugees may see fewer opportunities to offer support. The tension between protecting borders and protecting lives has rarely been sharper. For asylum seekers in 2025, the path forward requires preparation and support. Legal assistance is more important than ever, as professional guidance can help applicants gather the right evidence and navigate the complex process. Refugees must also be aware of new timelines and requirements to avoid automatic refusals. Community organizations, churches, and advocacy groups will play a critical role in helping applicants adjust to these changes. The lesson is clear: Canada's asylum system in 2025 is no longer as accessible as it once was, and those affected must rely on strategy, documentation, and support networks to stand a chance. The stakes are high. This rule determines not just legal status, but the ability of vulnerable families to find safety and stability in Canada. Number 8. Temporary Foreign Worker Restrictions. The Temporary Foreign Worker Program, TFWP, has always been a cornerstone of Canada's labour market, filling gaps in industries where Canadian workers are in short supply. In 2025, however, stricter restrictions are being introduced that could reshape how this program operates. The government is placing new caps on the number of foreign workers allowed in certain industries, particularly retail, food services, and hospitality. This means that thousands of workers who once relied on seasonal or temporary contracts may now find themselves without the opportunity to extend their stay. Employers are also under pressure, as they must prove that no Canadian citizens or permanent residents are available for the jobs before hiring abroad. For workers, the fear of sudden job loss is becoming a daily reality. These changes are designed to prioritize Canadian workers, but the ripple effects are being felt across the economy. Many restaurants, farms, and small businesses rely heavily on temporary workers, and reducing their numbers could lead to staff shortages, higher prices, and delayed services. For the workers themselves, the restrictions are even more severe. A farm worker who has been returning each year for harvest may suddenly be told there is no placement available. A caregiver working under a temporary visa might find her employer unable to renew her contract due to new limits. The uncertainty this creates is enormous, especially for those who have built lives and communities in Canada over many years. For temporary workers in 2025, survival means planning strategically. Staying updated on government announcements and ensuring contracts are properly documented are essential steps. Workers should also explore other immigration pathways, such as the provincial nominee program or caregiver-specific streams, that could offer longer-term stability. Seeking advice from authorized consultants can help identify hidden opportunities before doors close. The message is clear: the era of depending solely on the temporary foreign worker program is ending. In 2025, workers must be proactive, adaptable, and willing to shift strategies to avoid being forced out. The restrictions are not just policy changes, they are life-changing decisions that determine whether thousands can continue contributing to Canada's workforce or must return home unexpectedly. Number 7. Residency Obligation Enforcement. For permanent residents, one of the most critical but often overlooked requirements is the residency obligation. Canada requires permanent residents to spend at least 730 days, roughly 2 years, within the country during every 5-year period. In 2025, immigration authorities are expected to tighten enforcement of this rule, using more advanced tracking systems to verify travel history. This means that individuals who frequently travel for work or family reasons could find themselves at risk of losing their PR status if they cannot prove sufficient time spent in Canada. Imagine someone working in international business who spends months abroad each year. When they return, they could face serious challenges in renewing their permanent resident card. The stricter enforcement is tied to Canada's goal of ensuring that permanent residents truly integrate into society. Officials argue that those who maintain status while living mostly abroad are not fulfilling the intent of permanent residency. While the reasoning may be understandable, many families find it deeply stressful. Consider parents who must travel to care for elderly relatives overseas, or workers in industries like shipping and aviation who cannot avoid long absences. For them, the risk of falling short on the residency requirement feels unfair and disruptive. Losing PR not only affects the individual but also their spouse, children, and long-term plans of eventually applying for citizenship. For permanent residents in 2025, the best approach is to be proactive. Keeping detailed travel records, saving boarding passes, and monitoring days outside the country can prevent unpleasant surprises during renewal. If extended travel is unavoidable, some experts recommend applying for a humanitarian and compassionate (HNC) exemption, though approval is not guaranteed. Others advise seeking citizenship as soon as eligible, since citizens are not bound by residency rules. The key is awareness and preparation. Ignoring the obligation could result in devastating consequences. In 2025, enforcement of residency rules is no longer a technicality, it is a serious requirement that determines whether families can continue building their lives in Canada or face the heartbreak of starting over elsewhere. Number 6. Family sponsorship stricter rules. For many newcomers, the dream of building a future in Canada includes the ability to sponsor family members. In 2025, however, stricter family sponsorship requirements are making that dream harder to achieve. The government has raised the minimum income threshold for sponsors, meaning that only those earning above a certain level can bring their spouses, children, or parents to join them. For families already struggling with the high cost of living in Canada, this rule feels like an additional burden. Imagine a young couple where one partner is still completing school while the other works a modest job. Under the new rules, they may not qualify to reunite with loved ones. The emotional toll is immense, leaving many in fear of separation. The official reasoning behind these stricter requirements is tied to ensuring financial stability. Policymakers argue that sponsors should be able to fully support their family without depending on government assistance. While the logic may appear sound, critics highlight that the policy unfairly impacts newcomers working in entry-level jobs or industries with lower wages. A father driving long hours as a delivery worker or a mother working as a caregiver may be dedicated and capable, yet unable to meet the new financial cutoff. These rules risk creating a system where only the wealthiest immigrants are able to enjoy family unity, while others face years of painful separation. For those hoping to use family sponsorship in 2025, preparation is more important than ever. Applicants must keep clear financial records, including pay stubs and tax returns, to prove their eligibility. Seeking higher-paying jobs, even temporarily, could improve chances of meeting the threshold. Some families are also turning to immigration consultants to explore alternative pathways, such as provincial programs or humanitarian streams. The message is clear: sponsorship is no longer a simple process but a strategic challenge that demands planning, patience, and persistence. For families, the stakes could not be higher. Success means being together in Canada, while failure may mean years apart. Number 5. Provincial Nominee Program, PNP, changes. The Provincial Nominee Program, PNP, has long been a lifeline for applicants who might not score high enough under express entry. In 2025, however, provinces are making major adjustments to how nominations are issued. Instead of broad selections, many provinces are tightening their focus on specific priority sectors such as healthcare, skilled trades, and technology. This shift means that applicants who once relied on PNP as an easier path may now find themselves excluded if their occupation is not considered essential. For example, while a nurse in Alberta might have a strong chance at nomination, someone working in retail or hospitality may suddenly have no pathway through that province. These changes reflect the growing role of regional labor shortages in shaping immigration policy. Each province is trying to ensure that newcomers fill the most urgent gaps in their workforce. British Columbia may prioritize construction workers, while Manitoba focuses on agriculture. This targeted approach helps the economy but creates uncertainty for individuals whose careers do not align with those lists. Families who move to Canada hoping to settle permanently may feel disheartened when they discover that their skills are not in demand in the province they currently live. Critics argue that this approach risks creating uneven opportunities, where some professions flourish while others are left behind. The competition for nominations is becoming more intense than ever before. For applicants seeking permanent residency through PNP in 2025, the key is research and flexibility. Monitoring each province's announcements is critical, as demand lists can change quickly. Applicants may need to relocate within Canada to a province where their occupation is prioritized, a decision that requires both courage and careful planning. Building connections with local employers and preparing documentation in advance can also strengthen applications. Experts recommend that candidates act fast, because nomination quotas are often limited and fill up quickly once streams open. In 2025, the PNP is no longer a guaranteed safety net, it is a strategic race where only the best prepared and most adaptable applicants will succeed. Number 4. CRS Score Thresholds. The Comprehensive Ranking System, CRS, has always been at the heart of Canada's Express Entry immigration program. In 2025, the thresholds required to receive an invitation to apply, ITA, are climbing higher than many expected. This means that applicants who once had competitive profiles may now fall short. For example, where a score of 470 might have been enough in past years, the new draws are edging closer to 510 or even higher. The higher the threshold, the fewer people qualify, creating a more competitive and uncertain environment. For many aspiring immigrants, this change feels like a moving target, always just out of reach. Raising CRS scores is not just a numbers game, it reflects deeper policy priorities. Canada is signaling a push toward attracting highly skilled professionals with advanced education, strong language ability, and Canadian work experience. While this benefits sectors like technology, healthcare, and finance, it sidelines applicants in industries considered less critical. Imagine a skilled tradesperson with years of experience but a lower language score. Their CRS profile might not meet the new cutoffs despite Canada's ongoing demand for labor in that field. Critics argue that the emphasis on high CRS scores risks overlooking real-world economic needs. Families are also impacted, as spouses and children depend on the principal applicant's success in crossing the CRS barrier. For those planning to apply in 2025, the solution lies in strategy and improvement. Small changes to a profile can have a big impact. Retaking language tests, gaining additional work experience, or pursuing a provincial nomination can significantly boost CRS points. Candidates should also explore category-based draws, where Canada targets specific skills, such as healthcare workers or French speakers, even if their overall CRS score is lower. Staying proactive, monitoring each draw, and adjusting quickly is now essential. In 2025, the CRS threshold is more than just a number. It represents a critical dividing line between those who can achieve permanent residency and those who may see their Canadian dream slip away. Number 3. Language requirements. In 2025, one of the most talked about shifts in Canadian immigration is the rise in language requirements. For years, programs like Express Entry and the Provincial Nominee Program, PNP, have relied heavily on IELTS or CELPIP scores to measure an applicant's readiness to integrate. Now, the minimum Canadian language benchmark, CLB, levels are being raised across several immigration streams. What this means is simple: even if someone has the right work experience, strong education, or valid job offers, failing to meet the higher language thresholds could stop them from staying in Canada. For many immigrants, this feels like an invisible wall, because language is not only a skill but also a gateway to opportunity. Language has always been a pillar of integration, but these new standards are being seen as both an opportunity and a barrier. On one hand, policymakers argue that stronger language skills allow newcomers to thrive in the workforce, build community ties, and avoid isolation. On the other hand, critics say that raising requirements suddenly in 2025 creates unfair pressure on people already working and contributing. Consider a truck driver or factory worker who has lived in Canada for years, working long shifts, but now faces rejection simply because their test scores do not meet the new level. For students and professionals, the financial cost of preparing for repeated exams adds another burden, often creating stress instead of empowerment. For applicants aiming to stay in Canada, the best strategy is preparation. Free online tools, language apps, and community courses are more valuable than ever in helping individuals strengthen their English or French. Experts also advise scheduling test bookings early, since higher demand in 2025 is leading to long waiting lists. Beyond exams, everyday practice, watching English or French news, reading, or engaging in conversations, can make a dramatic difference. The reality is clear: in 2025, language is power. Those who adapt and improve will open doors to permanent residency, while those who delay may find themselves unexpectedly excluded. The rule is not just about passing a test, it is about proving readiness to fully participate in Canadian society. Number 2. Changes to postgraduate work permits, PGWP. For thousands of international students, the postgraduate work permit, or PGWP, is often seen as the golden bridge from education to permanent residency. However, in 2025, significant changes are raising concerns. The government has indicated that the rules around eligibility and duration of the PGWP may no longer remain as flexible as they once were. This means that students who plan to work for several years after graduation could suddenly find their permits shorter, stricter, or ineligible depending on the type of program they studied. Imagine a graduate who has invested tens of thousands of dollars into a Canadian education, only to discover that the expected pathway to permanent residency is closing faster than anticipated. For many, the uncertainty feels like a rug being pulled from under their feet. The PGWP has historically been one of Canada's strongest tools for attracting global talent. Students not only pay tuition fees but also contribute to the economy by working in industries ranging from technology to healthcare. With the 2025 adjustments, however, the government appears to be signaling a desire to prioritize certain fields while limiting access for others. Graduates from programs not deemed essential may struggle to extend their stay, which could lead to a mass outflow of highly educated individuals. Analysts warn that these restrictions may also cause ripple effects, as fewer international students choose Canada for higher education, preferring countries with clearer postgraduate opportunities. The potential loss in both talent and economic contribution could be significant. For students currently studying or preparing to graduate, the best approach is to act early. Begin researching which immigration streams remain available and ensure that work experience aligns with Canada's priority sectors. Seeking guidance from authorized consultants or campus advisors can also help in navigating these changes. It is equally important to keep updated with announcements from Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, since policy updates can appear suddenly and with immediate effect. The PGWP is no longer guaranteed as a smooth transition into Canadian life. Instead, it has become a competitive gateway that requires planning, strategy, and timely action. In 2025, international students must think ahead, because waiting until the last minute could cost them the chance to stay. Number 1. Expired work permits. For thousands of temporary foreign workers, the calendar in 2025 carries more than just dates, it carries deadlines that could decide their future. When a work permit reaches its expiry without renewal, the worker immediately risks losing legal status in Canada. This means they may no longer be authorized to remain in the country, even if their jobs and families are still here. Imagine a caregiver who has been supporting a Canadian household for years, suddenly told that her paperwork lapse could undo her stability overnight. The stress and uncertainty are overwhelming, not only for the worker but also for the families and industries that depend on them. The government has emphasized that strict compliance will be expected, and officers are paying closer attention than ever before to deadlines. Many industries that rely on foreign labor, from agriculture to construction, are already experiencing shortages, and tighter rules around permit renewal could make matters worse. The renewal process itself can be complex, involving multiple documents, employer confirmations, and proof of ongoing employment. Workers who fail to navigate this correctly or miss the window for application may find themselves facing removal orders. This reality underscores how fragile temporary status can be in Canada's immigration framework. While policies aim to ensure accountability, they also create intense pressure for individuals who may already be struggling with limited resources and complicated paperwork. For those currently working under temporary permits, the most practical step is planning ahead. Experts recommend that applications for extension be filed at least several months before expiry to avoid last-minute stress. Keeping a digital calendar reminder or seeking guidance from authorized immigration consultants can make a critical difference. Workers must also be aware that overstaying after expiration could negatively impact future immigration applications, including permanent residency. The year 2025 is being described by many analysts as a make-or-break moment for temporary workers in Canada, and vigilance is no longer optional, it is essential. Staying informed, staying organized, and staying proactive could mean the difference between continuing to build a life in Canada or being forced to leave suddenly. The immigration landscape in Canada for 2025 is shifting in ways that affect nearly every category of newcomer. From expired work permits and tougher PGWP rules to higher language requirements and rising CRS thresholds, the system is becoming more competitive than ever. Families face new financial hurdles in sponsorship, provinces are reshaping their priorities under the PNP, and permanent residents must carefully follow their residency obligations. At the same time, temporary workers encounter tighter restrictions, while refugees and asylum seekers face stricter documentation demands. To add to the challenge, criminal records and expanded security checks are raising the bar for everyone. While these changes may appear daunting, they also highlight one clear truth: success in 2025 requires planning, awareness, and adaptability. Those who stay informed, prepare their documents early, and seek the right guidance will stand the strongest chance of navigating these shifting rules. Canada remains a land of opportunity, but in 2025, the path to staying here is no longer automatic. It demands strategy, persistence, and resilience. For millions of immigrants and families, these rules will shape not only their status but also their future in a country they call home. What do you think about these new rules? Will they make Canada stronger, or push families away? Share your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you. Don't forget to check out our previous video for more insights, and if you value the hard work we put into creating these videos, please support us by subscribing. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.